I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfilment. Welcome to the 100th episode of the Lonely Leader podcast. I am extremely proud to have reached that milestone, but it wouldn't be possible without you, the listeners and supporters of this podcast. So the first and most important thing that I want to say today is a huge thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for the content suggestions that flow through into my inbox regularly. It has been a truly humbling journey over the last 2 years, and to know that I'm playing a small part through this podcast in your growth and development really does matter to me, and it is the ultimate source of fulfillment. So thank you. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I want to share some of the lessons I've learned on this journey and lessons that I think will be applicable to you, irrespective whether you're considering launching a podcast or just striving for more growth and development in your professional life and personal role. I also will share some of the most downloaded episodes because I'm a big believer that there are themes that most of us are wrestling with. Yes, we may be slightly further or slightly further behind on that personal and professional journey of development, but at any given point, we're going to meet similar challenges that other people have already met. So I thought it'd be interesting to share with you some of the most downloaded episodes. And last but not least, I also want to share with you an opportunity to win some free one-to-one high-performance executive coaching with me. So that will be at the end of the episode. I'll tell you a little bit more about how that can be achieved and how you can enter that competition. The first theme I want to dive into is procrastination. I procrastinated for probably 2 years prior to launching the Lonely Leader podcast. And as you've heard me say in the past, hindsight's always a genius. So with the benefit of hindsight, I look back now and think, what on earth led me to delay so long? Knowing what I know now and knowing how enjoyable this process has been for me, how wonderful the feedback's been in terms of the impact the podcast is having on people, why did I procrastinate? And I thought it's relevant to explore that because I'm sure I'm not alone on this. I'm sure that you will have procrastinated around certain elements of your professional development and your personal development. So I had questions in my head. Will anybody listen? Is it worth my time? Can I do it? Can I incorporate the work, the preparation, the recording time, the editing, all of these areas? Can I fit that into an already busy schedule? And all of those questions were rolling around in my mind. My daughters always make me laugh because they'll be very good-natured in their sort of banter and their jibes at me. And they'll often say, does anybody listen to this, Dad? Does anybody actually tune in? And I always say, well, yep, Grandma and Granddad do, and your mum does. So there's at least 3 people listening. But on a serious note, the statistics now show that the podcast is being listened to in 65 different countries. And there have been thousands and thousands of downloads across the episodes. So as I said at the start, that is truly, truly humbling. I have been able to find the time. It has 100% been worth it, and people are listening to it. So I think the lesson to take away here, and the lesson I need to remind myself, and we're all probably in the same boat, is that when we get that sense of procrastination starting to slow us down, starting to trap us in that sort of inaction, just take some action. Take a step. Do something to move forward. And I think when I wind the clock back to a couple of years ago, I set myself a deadline that I will launch this podcast, whatever state it's in, by this date. So I think having a date was really powerful. I then started to take small mini actions. I bought this microphone. I bought the boom arm. They were 2 essential pieces of kit. I began a process of research, listening to other podcasters, learning from people who had already walked this path. And I started to build a plan. I found a colleague who could work with me in the editing and development of this, and more about her a little bit later on. So There is no click your fingers, silver bullet, magic bean, as you've heard me say, where you just go, well, that's ready to go. We've done it. It's all packaged. It's a series of steps. And the podcast was no different. Taking those steps educationally, buying the equipment, and committing to a deadline, I think are principles that we can all apply to push through our own procrastination. So the second theme I want to talk about is consistency. So I pushed through that procrastination and launched, but then there's the danger that that old habit will circle back around. Well, can I justify doing an episode every week? Have I got time? Is it of value? And you could end up having the same debilitating narrative that was delaying the launch, then actually delays the consistency. So again, it helped me to just make a non-negotiable decision. I will release one episode per week. Come what may, that is the plan, and I'm not deviating from that plan. Now, that allowed me then to have something to align my discipline with, and by then applying that discipline, the habit was developed, and it becomes almost easy, for want of a better word, to avoid procrastination because there is a commitment. I have to release an episode. Therefore, I have to commit to a time of the week when I can record. And that habit is a non-negotiable. So there isn't even any internal narrative anymore. Should I release an episode or not? It's happening. It's a commitment. We have the discipline. We have the habit. And I think that's so important. For what it's worth, for anybody that's considering doing a podcast, I heard a fabulous piece of advice. Do not look at any statistics until you reach your 50th episode. Now, that might seem very alien to some of you. You'll be very focused on KPIs and data within your professional roles. So why wouldn't you want to look at the data? Well, the advice was it takes time for the listening to compound. It takes time for people to find the podcast, to explore it, and you will end up knee-jerking and changing direction based on a very limited data source. Once you get to 50 episodes, you've got a much bigger spread, and the data and the themes will be much more credible, and you're much less likely, therefore, to make short-termist knee-jerk decisions based on a smaller data pool. So that was really powerful because my only focus was on deliver quality content, listen to any feedback that comes back from listeners, but don't get too bogged down on the data until I reach the 50th episode. And as a dotted line, if anybody is considering launching a podcast, then do get in touch because as I'm about to explore, I've got a fabulous colleague and that has led us to develop a media agency within The Lonely Leader. And we now help lots of our clients on a multitude of levels in terms of enhancing their professional and personal brand, engaging on LinkedIn, turning their story into usable content and a way to enhance their connection with their network. And so we help people at that base level with their LinkedIn and their social media engagement. But equally, at that next step, we're also helping to host, manage, edit podcasts. So reach out if that's of interest. The hello@thelonelyleader.co.uk email address is always included in our show notes. We'd be delighted to have a chat if that's of interest. Now, just before I move on from the subject of consistency, it's an interesting side note that our third most downloaded episode is the Leadership Essentials Consistency episode. So it shows there's a resonance here that people want that consistency, sometimes struggle to have that consistency, and that is our third most downloaded episode to date. So the next theme I want to discuss is support. No one individual, however good you are, can do everything, not to the level that you expect. So it's imperative to find good people that you can work with in the short, medium or long term, whether they're freelance or permanent members of staff. It's about building a team. To be a true high performer, you need to build a high performing team. And I'm no different. Absolutely no different in that regard. So initially part of my procrastination was, have I got the time? Can I do it all? And I realized very quickly, no, I can't. If I try and edit and produce this podcast, I'm going to get lost in the weeds. It's not going to be good. The quality won't be good enough, and my first impression will be poor. And in effect, you're building on sand. People might come and listen, but they won't like what they hear and they won't come back. So I was blessed to find my colleague, Joe, who has been with me since the start of this journey. And it would be remiss not to give her a huge shout out and a massive thank you because she keeps everything moving behind the scenes. She takes my raw data, my raw file, and makes it all work. so that the end product you listen to or watch in the YouTube long form and the shorts, etc., that's all thanks to her outstanding editing. And so that's a great message for all of us, that we sometimes think, oh, I need to do it all myself, or perhaps, I shouldn't really spend money in any other area. I'll just do it all myself. And I've been there as an entrepreneur. When you start in your own business, it's tempting. Cash flow isn't established yet and you want to do it all yourself, but you just end up robbing Peter to pay Paul, shuffling the deck chairs, whatever analogy you want to use. Yes, you'll make progress, but the progress is slow. And a low quality, cheap product will not serve you in the longer term, whereas investing in something and having that skill and expertise massively enhances what you can do with the product over the longer term. So step one is finding those quality individuals, and step two, without a shadow of a doubt, is then delegating to them, getting out of their way. Don't micromanage them, give them the brief, let them run with it. That's exactly what Jo's done. She's a valued confidant. She gives me feedback and suggestions, and she extracts elements from the podcast that she thinks will have a resonance. We work as a team. And delegation is an interesting point because, again, as I said to you at the top of this episode, I want to share the most downloaded episodes. And the delegation episode sits at number 5. Leadership Essentials, Delegation, 5th most downloaded episode on the podcast to date. No surprise there. I think most of us have wrestled with what I've just articulated, trying to do everything ourselves. Or when we do delegate, we don't delegate effectively. We don't give people trust, autonomy. We stand over them. They don't enjoy that. They don't feel truly valued and trusted, so they don't perform, which then reinforces our doubt in the validity of delegating in the first place, and we pull things back to us, and so the spiral continues. So again, with all these episodes, I'm sharing them with you because these have resonated. They have attracted thousands of downloads. I encourage you to go and explore them. All of the links are, of course, in the show notes for these episodes that I'm mentioning. If you've listened to a few of my episodes, I'm sure you'll have heard me say before, please share your feedback, and thank you for your feedback, because that's what's helped shape a lot of the content. I love to hear people's perspectives. I love to hear their requests. And if I can, I will try and shape some sort of episode to answer the challenges and to support them in their progression in overcoming those challenges. So this is no different. I'm sharing with you what the data is showing me, the episodes that are at the top of the download charts, but please do get in touch in whatever's most appropriate. My 2 preferred channels would be the email or the LinkedIn DMs. What's been your favorite episode? I would love to hear that. Irrespective what the downloads are showing, tell me what's been the most impactful episode for you. And equally, if there's an area that you are struggling with, let me know. Everything is in complete confidence. I will never name names. Most people ask me not to name names, and that's absolutely fine. You simply say, I'm sharing this in confidence. Please don't say my name on air, but can you build something around this particular episode? And I would be delighted to. So please do share that feedback if you get a chance. So another area that I just want to touch on is one of the whys behind the podcast and how this links into another 2 of our most popular episodes. So if you've worked with me and if you listen to some of the podcasts, you know I like to paint pictures. So forgive me on this analogy if you've heard it before, but I like to think of the podcast as the butcher's shop window. Now, where am I going with this analogy? Well, for any of you that have walked down your local high street, whichever country you're in the world, you'll have walked past a certain butcher's shop window that, for those of you that are meat eaters, and I accept that not everybody is, so forgive me for those of you that are vegetarian, but the principle of walking past a well-dressed window, something that is enticing. There is food presented in a beautiful way. There are meats, there are pies, there are all sorts of things that say, this is an impressive store. What does that make you do? You step over the threshold. And when you get inside, you then meet the butcher or you meet the storekeeper and you get to know them as a person. So for those vegetarians, let's park the butcher shop analogy and just make it an enticing shop window, whatever that shop is. It's designed to make you stop, pause, look inside, and step over the threshold. When that is an underwhelming display, something that doesn't entice you, you've got a far lower likelihood of stepping over the threshold. So I use that analogy a lot with clients about the power of their LinkedIn. It is their shop window. It is a brand that people need to be able to stop, pause, and step in through the threshold and have an engagement with the butcher or storekeeper. So a bit of a stretch analogy. It'll resonate with some. A few of you might say, get to the point, James. But in essence, It's a way to create a first impression. It's a way for me to be able to say to people, this is who I am, these are my philosophies, and make it easy for them to approach me. Everybody's fearful of hard sells. That's not my style. But if your first interaction is a one-to-one Zoom call or a Teams call, people might feel a little bit under pressure. They might feel a little bit of, they're compelled to make a commitment. The podcast is available in people's own time at a pace and place to suit them. And if it resonates, then of course people can follow up and ask for those one-to-one insight calls. So why is this relevant to the episodes? Well, 2 more episodes to share with you. We've got our Maximizing First Impressions is our second most downloaded episode. And interestingly, the Leadership Essentials episode on approachability is our number 1. It is currently our most downloaded episode. So this notion of maximizing the first impressions through my podcast and making me more approachable, well, it very much aligns with what you as a Lonely Leader community have shown through your listening habits with what you need and want. So approachability and maximizing first impressions are our 1 and 2. And if this is your first episode and you keep thinking, what is this Leadership Essentials concept? Well, the Leadership Essentials are a suite of leadership traits that I have experienced and seen the value of really leaning into and bringing to the fore, and also the challenge of not being focused enough on them and not having them in my leadership toolkit. So as my personal perspective, which is also enhanced by the insights I've had through working with hundreds of leaders over the last few years. And it's my attempt to be able to say to you, consider this suite of essentials. I believe these traits should be part of how you lead, part of your leadership DNA. And then within each of those episodes, as with all of the Lonely Leader episodes, I then leave you with some actionable takeaways to allow you to enhance those essentials. So I'm not going in a structured download chart, number 10 down to number 1. I've shared the top 2 there. We've also shared other episodes around consistency, and there's some more still to come. So please do keep listening. I'll go through those as I work you through this journey of the last 2 years of podcasting with the Lonely Leader podcast. Let me move into the next theme, which is authenticity. For those of you that have worked with me in a one-to-one capacity or in a group format, you'll know I spend a lot of time establishing clarity, where you are, where you're trying to get to, how you're going to get there. And within that work, we spend a bit of time really looking at our values, what's important to us, because that helps lay foundational pieces that we build on in terms of building that roadmap for the future. And for me, without a shadow of a doubt, authenticity is a very, very important part of my value set. I believe it's what helps me build connection, that ability to authentically share insights, lived life experience, both professionally and personally, but not from a sort of theoretical, standing in an ivory tower and preaching capacity. Being able to talk about the highs, the lows, the extreme challenges that I've experienced as a CEO and as a leader. And as some of you have heard me say on previous episodes, I've experienced true highs and wonderful experiences as a leader, but I've also experienced the absolute darkest of moments, receiving death threats, threats against my family, etc., which is something that I would never wish on anybody, but it enhances my resilience. It is something that I can lean into and draw strength from and insight from to help people on their leadership journey. So that is something that if you are considering ever working with me in the future, you will find and you will see that I believe we learn best when we feel that we have an authentic connection with somebody and they can really share lived life experience as a way of improving people's growth and development. People respond to that, in my opinion. So the podcast, again, allows me to do that because it allows me to share lessons, insights, and do it in a very personal way. For all many, many thousands of the listeners I haven't met, of course. It's in 65 countries. I think we might have gone to 67, but let's call it 65. And it's going to thousands of different people. I can't meet you all personally, but there is, as I enjoy listening to other podcasts, an intimacy to this because it's just me, you, your headphones, and there's a connection there. So I think it really allows that authentic connection. And no surprise, coming back to the most downloaded episodes, Our Leadership Essential episode on authenticity sits at number 4 on the download charts. I got a real buzz when I was shaping the flow of what I wanted to talk about today, because I was thinking about consistency. I was thinking about Joe and getting good people around you and delegating. I was thinking about the need to push through your procrastination. I was thinking about talking around authenticity. And then when I asked for the data from Joe and these episodes were laid out in front of me, I was like, wow, there's a real synchronicity here behind the things that are important to me that I wanted to talk about and the things that are evidently important to you and your listening habits, which are displayed in this download data. Okay, so let me just share a final few episodes that have ranked highly. It's not quite a top 10. I think I'm going to end up with about 9 episodes here. But number 6, burnout, warning signs and tips to prevent it. I think it's a universally accepted truth that we're under pressure. For whatever reason, in whatever sector you are in, public or private, whatever country you're in, we are working hard. We are trying to bring the best version of us in our professional roles and in our personal roles. But unfortunately, there are higher levels of chronic stress and, as a consequence, burnout than perhaps ever before. I've experienced collapsing with pneumonia. I was resentful at the time. What's wrong with my body? Why is this happening? I can't afford to be off work sick. But it was a wake-up moment. It was a pivotal moment, something I talk about extensively in previous episodes, because it made me stop and say, I'm not indestructible. I am a human being, and working 15-hour days, 7 days a week in my CEO role was just not sustainable. But the lesson in that pain was very positive. It allowed me to change habits. It allowed me to start to take a much more holistic look at high performance and to be able to achieve high performance in a sustainable way without damaging yourself physically or mentally. So that episode, no surprise it's resonating, because people are struggling with burnout, and it's been an absolute pleasure to see how people are rolling out those tips into their own lives, into their roles, and really reducing that risk of burnout. Number 7 on the download chart. Well, 7 and 8. It's a 2-part episode, Feedback Culture, the secret weapon of high-performing teams. Part 1 focuses on giving feedback, and Part 2, receiving feedback. And they're coming in at position 7 and 8 on the download charts, because, again, in society, we are becoming increasingly reluctant, if that's the right word, and I think it is, to actually give and take feedback. We take offense. We see it as a personal attack. We fear causing that offense, and therefore we sort of dance around the issues. And then overlying all of that, some people cry foul and accuse their colleagues or their boss of bullying them or intimidatory behavior, when actually it's just candid feedback. Now, I'm not excusing bullying, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but we've got way off task here, way off the track of what I see the highest performing teams do. In sport and the military, for instance, feedback is candid. It can be brutal at times, but it is never personal. It is never designed to cause offense. Quite the contrary, it's designed to ensure that we learn the lessons from what has gone well and also the lessons from what has not gone well, and then we disseminate those lessons to protect everybody in the organization, to protect our colleagues from stumbling into the same mistakes that have already been made, and to help them with the sort of roadmap, if you will, of here are some of the things that are working well. Let's do more of that, less of the things that haven't. So that giving and taking of feedback is a real challenge for so many leaders. How do I do it? How do I do it without causing offense? And equally, how do we create an environment where it's culturally accepted that we're going to give and take feedback regularly and remove our egos and that quick willingness to take offense? Not easy. These episodes will help. Something I spend a lot of time embedded with leaders and teams to really push through these challenges and create a high performance environment which is built fundamentally around the ability to give and take feedback well. So they're in at number 7 and 8. And the last one I'm going to mention today is in at the just slipping into the top 10, number 9, lessons from my leadership journey. I've talked about authenticity. I've talked about the fact that most of us are wrestling with themes. Well, I'm no different. I spent the vast majority of my professional career in C-suite roles, CEO roles, and I learned a huge amount in that time. So if I'm going to be authentic, if I'm going to build that effective rapport and an empathy with you, then I need to learn and share some of my own lessons. And that's what that episode is designed to do. It's my attempt to say, hey, this is what I've experienced personally. And as I keep saying, I supplement a lot of my insights with the lessons I'm learning on a daily basis with all of the wonderful leaders I get to work with around the world. But it starts with what I experienced, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how I can draw lessons and teachings out of that to complement my training, my coaching, and my mentoring. As I start to bring this episode to a close, another theme that I just want to remind myself and indeed all of us is it's so important to celebrate the milestones on our journey. We've all got that default setting. I'll be happy when I get that promotion, I buy that house, I meet that person, I settle down, I become a parent. Whatever it is, we defer and kick our happiness down the road. And often it's around an objective that might be many years ahead of us. And then perversely, we get it. We get the promotion, we get the car, we get the title, whatever it may be. And that happiness just, it fades. And then we move the bar and we say, right, well, I'll be happy when I get there. I'm sure that resonates. I've walked that path. We've all walked that path. There's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with goals. Would never say that there is. But I think what I sometimes struggled with and what I remind myself now and spend time reminding my clients is it's great to have that end point, but let's just take a breath and reflect. It's good to reflect on what's not going well and course correct. And equally, it's good to reflect on what is going well. Am I the world's greatest podcaster? Absolutely not. Have I done more episodes than anyone else? Of course not. There's people out there with thousands of episodes, but reaching 100 episodes is a milestone. Thousands of podcasters never get to that milestone. I remember a mentor before I launched saying to me, if you get to 100 episodes, you are in the top few percent of podcasters. So I'm not standing here arrogantly, sitting here as I record this and saying I'm the greatest podcaster. I'm simply saying I'm proud to have reached this milestone. And that's a message I want you to embrace. What milestone have you reached on your personal journey? Maybe it's a fitness goal. Maybe you're still disappointed with your level of fitness or how you physically look and feel. But hang on a sec, how far have you come? Celebrate the milestone and keep going. Maybe you're not quite where you want to be professionally and it's easy to drift into frustration, but look how far you've come. Be proud of the steps you're taking. Be proud of how you're trying to learn more and educate yourself and develop new skills to build that progress. So celebrating the milestones, I think, is a message and an important message because it helps fuel our level of confidence. It empowers our mindset. And those two things fire up the engines and make it much easier to keep taking action and building momentum to those end goals that you want to achieve. If we don't celebrate the milestones and we don't keep our confidence buoyant and we don't empower our mindset, then we start to drift the other way. We get frustrated with ourselves. Our confidence wanes. We get sucked back into that world of procrastination. We get frustrated that we're not making any momentum. And actually, we get into a vicious cycle that's taken us the wrong way. So look for the milestones in both your professional role and your personal life, and just quietly, internally, perhaps it's just you with you, or perhaps it's with your partner or a good friend. Acknowledge it. I'm proud of this. I'm proud of that. Pleased at how far I've come, and I'm going to keep going. So, I said there'd be a little bit of a competition. I've listened to a lot of podcasters who talk about you must do giveaways, you must do something substantive. So, this is my best attempt to do that. The best way I can help you is to be able to offer some coaching with you. Now, I appreciate that everybody has budgetary pressures. Not everybody can afford to do that. So I want to offer some complimentary coaching. So I've got 5 coaching sessions available to be won, one-to-one, completely private, completely confidential, virtually delivered through Zoom at a time that suits your diary. In terms of entering, what I'd like you to do is follow the show. Click on that plus sign and follow the show. Screenshot it to show that you are doing, and then email that screenshot to hello@thelonelyleader.co.uk. Now, that's option 1. If you would like to be in with a chance of winning a place on our Leadership Accelerator, our flagship program, my attempt to disseminate and distill 20 odd years of my leadership journey, compounded and complemented by the hundreds of leaders I've worked with over the last 6 years. That is my flagship coaching, mentoring program. It's 8 sessions, again, delivered virtually at a time and cadence to suit you. In order to be in with a chance to win that, I'd like you to rate the show and write a review if you're on Apple. So again, reviews aren't always possible because you may be on Spotify, for instance, but simply hit that star rating on whatever platform you do, screenshot it and send that in. If you are on Apple and you've listened to the episodes, and of course this has to be sincere, I don't think you can even write a review unless you've listened to a decent number of episodes anyway. So I am asking you to, first and foremost, listen to the episodes. Listen to a handful of them. Make sure you've got some value from that. And if you feel you've got some value and you feel comfortable, clicking follow, screenshotting, and entering the competition for a one-to-one session, great. And if you feel comfortable going a step further and actually rating the podcast or writing a review, then again, screenshot that, email that to hello@thelonelyleader.co.uk, and you will be in with a chance of winning the Leadership Accelerator. I will let you know personally within the week of this episode going live if you have won. And again, as I always say, I completely respect people's privacy. Often people have a concern about being named on these sort of competitions. If you don't want that to be happen, it will stay confidential. But that is a cultural challenge which I am starting to change, because some people worry about the very notion still of having a coach and that might be perceived as a weakness. But why should that ever really exist? Not that I will challenge your thinking and breach any confidentiality, but just as a final thought, every elite sportsman and woman in the world, even if they are one of the greatest athletes in their discipline, still has a coach. Whether you look at tennis, football, golf, you name it, there are world-class performers who have a team of coaches looking at their technical competency, their physical abilities, their mental performance, their nutritional standing. Everything is explored with a view to enhancing it. So please don't ever think that working with a coach, irrespective if it's me or anybody else, is a negative or a weakness. Quite the contrary. It should be seen as a sign of strength and a desire to get better and continue to grow and develop. So I want to finish one last time with the same way I started. A huge thank you. You are helping me grow. You have challenged me to be disciplined and deliver one episode a week for 100 weeks. I've loved every minute. I'm looking forward to the next 100 episodes. And as I said within the body of this episode, please do share your favorite episode, and please do share any areas you'd like me to consider, because as I shape the next 100 episodes, the only objective is to add value to you, to help you grow and develop. And the best way to do that is to make sure the content is tailored to your needs. So please do email in or DM me on LinkedIn. I read every message. My team disseminates it with me, and we will answer and we will shape content to help you. That is the only reason for this podcast existing. It's not an echo chamber for me to listen to myself. It's a tool to help you grow. So take that opportunity, contact us, let us know what you need support in, and we will do our very best to do just that. I wish you the very best on your continued journey of growth and development. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.